Rav Simcha Zissou brings a midrash, a very difficult midrash. He says like this. It says that the world was tohu vavohu, was void. How do they translate that? The earth was formless and void, right? And then Hashem said, "Let there be light." Hashem says, Hashem didn't know what was greater, the maisim of the Rishayim or the maisim of the Tzaddikim. Which was greater? So then it says, Hashem saw the light, and the light was good. That means, at that point, he saw that the maisim of the Tzaddikim is greater. Very cryptic Mishnah. What are we talking about? So, are we talking about the acts of the wicked? What's better, the acts of the wicked people or the acts of the righteous people? What's better? So that's going to be the question. Rav Simcha is going to talk about that. In the meantime, so that's the midrash. In the parsha it says like this. The verse says like this. Hashem spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and say to him, when you kindle the lamps towards the face of the menorah, you shall light the 7 lamps." And what does the pasuk say? But Aaron did so. Aaron did exactly what Moshe told him to do. Right? And he faced the menorah. What are we talking about? We're talking about facing the wicks of the menorah towards the center of the menorah. You have the center, that the wicks should all point in the same direction. The light should flow in a certain way. So Rashi says on that, L'hagid shvacho shel Aaron. That the fact that Aaron did exactly what Moshe told him to do, that Hashem told Moshe to do it, and Moshe told Aaron to do it, he did exactly what he did. This is to tell you the shvach of Moshe. Avalo shina, he did not deviate. He did not deviate at all. He did exactly what Moshe told him. So the famous kasha, there's a couple of different answers to this difficulty. The difficulty is, of course, Aaron a Kohen did what Moshe told him to do. He's Aaron a Kohen. And he knows that Hashem, and he himself has Ruach HaKodesh. And Hashem spoke to Aaron that he knows that Moshe is the messenger of God, and God's telling him what to do. And he tells him exactly what to do, and he did it. Comes along the Rashi and says, and this tells us the shvach of Aaron, that Aaron did exactly what Moshe told him to do. I mean, what is he? Is he going to do something different? Not going to do anything different. He understands what's going on here, what's at stake. So that's the difficulty. Rav Simcha Zissou explains like this. What was the original, what's Peshat in the Midrash? The Midrash says that Hashem couldn't tell the difference between the acts of the wicked and the acts of the righteous. So, like Daniel said, we're talking about the good acts of both of them. But what's the difference between the acts of the wicked and the acts of the righteous in terms of the mitzvahs they do? Every Jew is filled with mitzvahs. What's the difference? Is the person who is not so religious, he does what kind of mitzvahs? The big mitzvahs. He saves people, he gives money for tzedakah, he does big mitzvahs. But small mitzvahs he doesn't do. He doesn't do mayim achronim, washing his hands after, he doesn't wash his hands to bench for the bread, right? So he doesn't do, the righteous person, the wicked person, or the not so righteous person only does the big mitzvahs. So what's the difference? He's not like Avram Avinu. Rav Simcha Zissou brought down Avram Avinu. He thought that these 2 Arabs came out of the desert, and he's there running around with Sarah, baking bread and getting calves together. Unbelievable mitzvah to serve these 2 guys who he thinks are going to lord these 2 guys. You know what I mean? He's serving these 2 guys, and he's doing it with such unbelievable. It's levels like he's all excited and everything. What's going on there? Now it says in the pasuk, it says that when Hashem saw that the light was good, at that point he understood that really what's better? The Ma'aseh Tzaddikim. So what's the difference? The Ora Ganuz, there's a concept called Ora Ganuz, Al Pi Kabbalah. The light that was hidden away for the Tzaddikim. We don't see the light in the mitzvahs right now. We just see whatever we see. The Pirkei Avos says like this. He brings the Pirkei Avos that says, V'havi zahir mitzvahs kala. You should be careful with a small mitzvah kebachumra, just like you are with a big mitzvah. Why? We don't know the schar of the mitzvahs. We don't know what they're worth. And actually, on this Pirkei Avos brings Rav Chaim Volozhin, and he says, the Gemara in Bracha says, no eye has ever seen the reward for the mitzvahs. We don't know what is the mitzvahs. So what's the difference between the tzaddikim, the acts of the tzaddikim, and the acts of the rishayim? The acts of the rishayim, the wicked people, they understand, everybody understands that a big mitzvah to save a person's life, to give money to save a person's life, everybody understands how it's a big mitzvah. But the small mitzvahs, they don't see the light. The difference between the tzaddik sees the organuz, the hidden light. Within that, he understands, Ein davar katan lifnei Hashem. There's nothing small in front of God. In other words, Ratzon Hashem, to do the will of God, if it's a big one or it's a small one, in a certain sense, it's all the same. What do I care if it's a big mitzvah or it's a small mitzvah? God told me to do it. The master of the universe, the one who's running the universe, running the planets and the stars and having everything spin around. That's the God. If we're doing Ratzon Hashem, if He tells me to do a small thing, He tells me to do a big thing, the small thing is also a big thing. It's also a big thing because God told me to do it. So that's the difference between the righteous person and the not righteous person. He sees the light even in the smallest, and that's what it means for Shina. Aaron didn't deviate. I mean, your average Jew, he's doing things out of the goodness of his heart. He's doing it because he feels it's the right thing. Maybe he say he's really not doing it for Hashem, but he does. There's some kind of light that comes through that he understands to do that mitzvah. But that's the difference. But the tzaddik, he sees even in the smallest thing. He sees that. What it means by Hashem saw the or and it was good. What does it mean? That he saw that the tzaddikim see the light. It's called the Ora Ganuz, the hidden light inside of the mitzvahs. That even though it's small, he understands it has to be. Now I want to point out, my kiddush is like this. It's not magic and it's not just amuna, it's logical. Why is it logical? Because if it's the master of the universe who commanded you to do even the smallest mitzvah, it has to be something that's way, way beyond. The reward has to be something that's beyond. It has to be better just than getting a new Mercedes and a new yacht. It has to be something more than that because we're talking about the master of the universe and we're talking about life after death. We're talking about the next world. By definition, you know, it says no eye has ever seen it. You know potentially there has to be something there way, way beyond what we know, what we understand. And if can you imagine, for example, that if this is really the will of God and you're doing the will of God, it has to be something big. It has to be something great. Aaron brought this mitzvah of lighting the candles and just making them facing the right to a level of the greatest mitzvah of saving lives, of giving money, millions to hospitals and doing tzedakah, helping people. He understood it's the will of God, and if it's the will of God, it's got to be the greatest thing. It's got to be the greatest thing that exists. When you're really serving God, you get involved with the details. Every little thing, you want to make sure you do it right. You want to do it right. You want to do it right to the end. And also in the negative. A guy says, what's the difference if a guy says, oh, I only stole $1. Or a guy stole $100 million. He did the same Avera. He did the same Avera. It's the same Avera. Stealing $1, stealing $100,000 is the same stealing. It's going against the will of God. It's the same thing. And also in the positive, whether you did a big mitzvah, whether you did a small mitzvah, it's all the same thing. It's got to be something tremendous. When we learn this Torah, when we do mitzvahs, it's something tremendous. We don't see how tremendous it is because it's the Ora Ganuz, it's a hidden light. The Lord is hidden away from the tzaddikim. It's not revealed. But al pi seichel, we understand that there's got to be light here because if it's coming from the master of the universe, it's got to be something great.